Welcome, friends. We are so excited about today's show. We have Nancy T joining us, and we're having tea with Nancy T, by the way. And we're going to be talking about when friends fly south, aka it's just a kind of a fancier way of saying ghosted. More of that because it's a big topic, and we're going to unpack it in a magical way. So stay tuned.
When I'm in need of a great big grin, I know where to go for some oxytocin. When the whole world seems to be cold and mean, I know who to call for some dopamine. I'll be your Lucy, you'll be my Ethel, I'll be the Thelma, you'll be Louise, and we'll ride together till we reach the rainbow's end. Thank you for being my friend.
Welcome to Anatomy of Friendship. We're so excited. We get to have Nancy T on with us, and we're having a little tea with Nancy T. And we're going to be talking about when friends fly south or west or southwest or wherever they may go. And this episode is sponsored by Southwest. Wouldn't that be great?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. All right. So
I like Southwest, actually.
they
They let
okay.
you have a free bag. You don't have to pay for that bag.
I like that about
just
Southwest. That makes me feel friendly about them.
It does.
Okay, so speaking of friendly, one of the most luscious, lovable humans on the planet is joining us, Nancy T. Her full name is Nancy Telzero. So if you want to look up her website, nancytelzero.com, she is an actor and a healer. And she was in a show that I love that comes up on Christmas every year called The Feast of the Seven Fishes. And you won't recognize her in it because she is such a good actress that you don't even recognize that it's her. But she's also a healer. She helped get my hip back online when I was having a little skip with my hip. And Nancy is just amazing. And it's almost impossible to imagine that somebody so luscious, so lovable could ever be ghosted by anyone. So I think we're going to unpack what happened to her, but I think this is for anybody that thinks, well, if I was just a little more perfect, if I was a little more sweet, if I was a little more good, if I was a little more extra sugar on top of the sugar, then I would never get ghosted. But no, sometimes it just happens to us. Okay. So Nancy T, tell us what happened. Tell us all about it.
Okay, so I had this friend, and much like you two, we were best friends. She was even blonde, and I was brunette. It was just like you two, except for one thing.
Oh,
Not exactly. There's one thing, and I think this is so important before I even tell this story. She told me that her mother told her, you can't trust women. You can never trust women. You could trust me because I'm your mom, but you can't trust women. And I feel like she walked in those steps her whole life. And maybe that's what ultimately took us down. But it's up for grabs.
okay.
So the story is that we were friends. I met her through my ex-husband. She was in his band. She wrote her own music. I used to sing backup for her. She was married. She used to try to set me up with boys and stuff. And there was one guy, I got to admit, I did complain a lot. He was probably not well suited for me. He was a Virgo. I'm a Libra. What was I thinking? But anyway.
What were you thinking? Let's just have a whole episode about that.
That was never going to work. But anyway, so I used to complain a lot. And I somehow look back and think, did I complain too much about him? Was that what I did? But in the end, she ended up writing me a letter saying, I no longer think we should be friends because I don't need to have friends just because they need me anymore. In other words, I was only in her life because I leaned on her and made her feel good about always helping someone. And she sort of made it out to be like I didn't do anything for her, which was rough on me because if I look back, I could name quite a few things I did, including going and buying her shoes from Nordstrom because she broke her wrist and she couldn't tie them, and brushing her hair, which and let me sing backup for you, and oh, you want a critique of your song? Yes, cut this line, do this, me. I'm involved, but I suspect there's a couple of reasons I suspect this might have gone south. um, I'll have your feedback on it, but
Mm-hmm.
one is she was married, and I used to say, "How are things going?" And she would always say, "They're great." And so I didn't press her and say, "Come on, tell me they suck," But I always
Right. Give me
thought,
the dirt.
yeah, right. Like, I mean, if someone tells me the relationship's good, I'm going to say, good, I'm glad. But apparently she was having a really rough relationship. And I was, as her best friend, knew nothing of it. And out of the blue, she got divorced. Months later, when her husband was talking to me about their divorce, he told me he was in love with me.
Ooh.
Now, let me tell you, he was never nice to me. In fact, hated it. I thought he hated my guts. So I was very surprised by this, but it made me wonder if that's one of the reasons she wanted to break it up.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there's one more layer to this, and that is there was a guy she had set me up with, a second guy who I just had casual fun with. She ended up marrying him.
Yeah.
So maybe that was the reason. And what I wish is I wish she would have said, it's just too dang awkward. It's too awkward with all of these overlaps. And so maybe we shouldn't be friends anymore. And I would have understood that. But instead, she framed it like you were a bad friend. And that hurt my heart for years. But now I
Oh.
have such good friends with you, like you guys, that my heart's healed. And it's because of people like you, true friends that are kind and loving and see me for all my flaws and anything else I might have to offer. That's the nutshell.
So just a little bit more background. How long were you friends with her until before this thing happened, this breakup?
I'm going to say about 10 years.
10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And were you like, did you spend a lot of time together during that time?
We considered each other best friends. We talked constantly. She lived in the same town as I did. In fact, she and her husband both said if it weren't for me, they would have never gotten to move west. They wanted to move to LA because when I came over to help them with the move, she said, he's frozen in the basement. He won't do anything. He's like scared. And I said, I'll get him to move. And I went downstairs and I grabbed a filing cabinet. I said, get the other end. And he just kind of stood up and got it. And we started moving his stuff out. And they both would say, if it weren't for you, we wouldn't be here. We would have never left because I came and I moved him out. So you see what I mean? I don't think I was completely useless, but that was how it was put.
Ooh, okay. So, open to feedback, or let's just bounce
No,
this
go ahead.
around. Well, let me just ask you this: where are you at with this now? Like, honestly, like my hunch is that it's many years since. How long ago was this? So you were friends for 10 years. How long has it been since that breakup day?
I'm gonna say, it's a long time. I don't even know. I'm so bad.
Maybe 10 years. I know.
I'm
Another
the kind
decade.
of person that like if something dies, I don't remember when they died. I could tell you
Right.
we became friends, but I can't
Yeah.
tell you when we stopped being friends. So I don't know.
It's been a long time.
But it's been a while. Yes, it's been
It's
a
been
while.
more than 10 years, probably.
Yeah. It's been
Okay.
since maybe at least, gosh, it's probably been 20 years. Actually, now that I think about it.
And I know because you shared this with me. She came back around recently-ish.
No, actually, quite
Okay.
close to that. One of the things she took on her way out was another one of my friends. And I remember that friend saying to me, oh, I heard you guys were having problems. And this is before she had broken it off. So I was like, what? What do you mean we're having problems? I didn't know about that. And then she just sort of went into the, have you ever seen that GIF of Homer going into the bushes?
No.
Faded away. She faded away. So I saw her, that other friend, at an event, and she was making her beeline over to me. And I just acted as though I didn't see her, and I left because I didn't have anything to say. There was
So you saw her at an event, but you didn't interact with her.
that was the second friend, but yeah, not
The second friend,
the
not
main.
the main one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did, but I didn't. I felt like she was coming over to me because she didn't know anyone, and so it would be now I have someone to talk to, and I was like, I'm not gonna be used after all that, and that didn't feel good to me, so I left.
Okay. So where are you at? Last question, and then Joey's going to go first.
Okay.
Where, like, on a scale of, let's just say 10 is perfectly healed, like so much love, bursting at the seams. 0 is, I hate this person. I wish they were dead. Where are you at on that scale, that pain scale?
I'd say an 8. So
Okay.
there's still like a little bit of me that wishes she'd come back and say, okay, if I were honest, I wouldn't have said those things. I would have said this. I
Oh, okay.
sort of have that teeny bit of wish. I know she'll never do that. That's not her style. But there's a little, I can't lie. I mean,
Yeah.
that's probably true. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Hit it, Joe.
So when you're saying an 8,
She's like close to healed.
okay, so 10 is healed then.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Usually on a pain scale, the higher number.
Oh, that's
is
right.
pain.
Right.
So I just want to make sure.
For me too.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, okay.
That's right.
I know the pain scale. So.
Right. You do. You
All
do.
right. Okay, so what if I could distill what I'm hearing down to like the nugget, and also from knowing you, I feel like what I'm hearing is you have such a value for generosity, and you pride yourself on your generosity, especially at Nancy 1.0.
Oh, yeah.
Was extraordinarily generous, whether it suited you or didn't suit you. It was like, I'm going to be the most generous person ever. So
let's clarify Nancy 1.0 versus Nancy
do you want to maybe we should do okay. So
let me just say this. Nancy had a near-death experience that she's writing a book about called The Butterfly Stroke. The butterfly, just the butterfly stroke. The butterfly stroke. So we kind of refer to Nancy as before her stroke, who she was as 1.0. Nancy 2.0 is who she is post. And the 2.0 is that
like BS before stroke and AS after stroke. Yeah. It's like bullshit and asshole. But anyway, I don't mean that.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Terrible. So
just before stroke,
after stroke. Okay.
So 1.0.
1.0 is the Nancy before. And Nancy after is incredibly generous, but from a true place versus like a
compensatory.
Instead of being compensatory and trying to make sure that you're valuable. But so having known you, I'm assuming that when you come from a place of generosity, that it's shocking and painful to think my generosity was not only not enough, but it's now being used as a reason for someone to not want to be in relationship with me. And that, I imagine, made your head go, like, what? Mm-hmm. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I would say for her to indicate that I gave nothing to the friendship, it was hard. That was super hard for me to hear, because I felt like, wait a minute, is that true? I mean, I started to scan myself, and I could find a lot of times I did things. And the only times that I didn't, like, for instance, with her relationship, is I just believed her when I asked her, is it okay? And she said, it's okay. So I guess she was sort of blaming me for not prying more there. But
not what more?
Prying in. Like, what do you mean? Are you really okay? Are you guys fine? I mean, come on. Like, yeah,
like being doubtful what she was saying.
You could have gotten in trouble for that too.
Yeah, I took her at her word. So
right.
I feel like that was kind of used against me, but yeah.
I want to jump in for a second, unless you're...
Go ahead.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I just want to say it feels like my first thought is she was jealous because you're bright, you're beautiful, and in the end, her husband was attracted. It was not just attracted to you, but in love with you. So her spidey senses must have been on heightened alert. Wives know these things. Mm-hmm, and if she was feeling threatened and feeling like she was on unstable ground, and here's this beautiful single woman that's around that is all the things that I'm not, that would be hard for a fellow Aphrodite that's not like really confident. And I don't know if that was her her style. But it feels like in a word, I mean, this is like the top layer of this. I know there's other nuances, but green-eyed monster coming out of from a mother's conditioning that says women are not trustworthy. I mean, that is some serious conditioning to get from our mother, who is basically the voice of God in our ear. And if we look at the world through that lens, we seek and we shall find. So
Right.
you were a threat, and she wanted to be numero uno, and around you she wasn't. So and what sucks is that she couldn't have been more confident in herself to be able to be honest and say, I'm just threatened by you. You gave me all kinds of things. You were wonderful, and I didn't let you into how funky my relationship was. I was on unstable ground. That's not your fault. And I should have never said that thing that you're not a good friend. I'm not a good friend because I wasn't honest with you and I didn't give you a chance. So I'm so sorry. Okay, back to you.
Yeah, and her assumption, her speaking that it was your fault when really it was like she got to have confirmation bias. You can't trust women because her husband was in love with you. So she got to have confirmation bias, except for the fact that it had nothing to do with you.
Right.
It had to do with him. So,
Right.
okay. So that's like us girlfriends sort of siding with you here.
Yeah.
But I think on a deeper level, I'm thinking about the places inside myself where I've declared I'm going to be something or I'm not going to be something in order to be safe. And and similarly, I feel like I've tried to be generous to be safe. I've tried not to be selfish in order to be safe. And I defined an identity around that. So if someone even pointed that I was selfish or not generous back then, before my 2.0 version, I would have just tried harder to be more, do more, be more, do more. But through the healing process, I feel like if someone pokes it that I'm not enough in some way, it's like it's my job to do the inner reassuring necessary to not perpetuate the belief that I need to do more and be more in order to be lovable. And so I feel like, and Kelly's one that introduced me to this saying, which I'm sure you've heard because you travel with her so much, but she was your pinche tiranito. She was your little effing tyrant. And Carlos Castaneda says everyone has to have one, because if everyone was just your nice best friend, no one would scrape you enough to grow, and you wouldn't create pearls. So I feel like it's so important for you not to have to do more and be more in order to be lovable. It's so important for me to not have to do more and be more in order to be lovable. So but when you started off this talk, it was just like, what, did I not give enough? Did I take too much? Like that was almost the first thing that you said. So it made me go, that her, her value for generosity and her fear of not being generous. And just that compensatory place of safety, which you no longer are committed to living. You're no longer committed to living as in a compensatory way in order to be safe. Like you have your safety with your divine, and yet that hasn't been here as long as the belief that we have to do more, be more in order to be loved. So how could that not scrape at you? And now it needs to be reassessed and reevaluated and reinterpreted with the 2.0 version, and reassured by the 2.0 Nancy, who has a higher self that knows the truth about her worth and can soothe that part of herself. And guess what? What if you did take more than she did?
And
What does that mean?
that I've been trying to kind of get there, like to what part of that is true, because in every story there's something that's true.
Right.
And so I looked at it and I thought about it, that one boyfriend, that Virgo, I probably complain every single day.
Right.
And I know how I feel about people complaining. I'm not a fan of if they don't bring other stuff too, which of course I always did, but if they just bring me complaints every day, that I'm not a fan of that person. So I thought about it and I was like, oh, that's true. And I thought her husband was a bit of an a-hole, and I could have said, he rubs me the wrong way. Does he ever do anything to you? But I didn't do that. So I mean, I try to look at it from a how can I own what I may have done to contribute to this? But I should tell you this, that when she wrote that, it was in an email. I just said, okay. I think I said, I don't think I said, I'm sorry you feel that way. I said, okay, I hope you have a good life. And that was it. It
Yeah.
was just one liner. I didn't defend
Thanks for
it.
one more thing.
I didn't anything. I was pretty mad that was her takeaway.
Yeah. And my cherry on top that I wanted to add to that was like, so what if you did something irritating? So
Yeah.
what if you did something imperfect? Like, she could be irritated, and that's totally fine and even understandable. But I think your imperfection is not synonymous with that you deserve to be guillotined out of anyone's life. That was her choice. And I don't think you have any problem taking some responsibility for, like, oh shit, did I complain too much? I'm so sorry. Was I not responsible enough? No, so that's a kind of a bump that people get over in relationships. That's not the one that, somebody cutting you out that's a very large consequence for a minor offense. So you have to separate out the consequence from the offense. And use your higher self to reassure your little self, because if you're looking for, oh my God, did I do something imperfect? You could probably find the answer to be yes, but that doesn't equal that you deserve to be cut out. And it sounds like it was a very complicated situation, especially with her husband. So
yeah. And her new husband too.
oh yeah.
Like all the men,
Oh my God. So I have like the low and the high view that is, they're both tug of warring in my brain. And I don't know if this is low, but it just feels like on a very human level, not everybody's going to last. Not everybody, we're not entitled. Just because we have a friendship doesn't ever equal we're going to be around with each other the next day. It doesn't. Like being alive, we're not entitled to another breath. We're not entitled to anything. Like everything we've gotten thus far is plenty. And everything that's extra it's like, that's thy will be done. It's so just because we have a friendship doesn't mean that we're going to have it for the rest of our lives, even though we have a story that, wow, if we bond deeply, that equals permanence, that equals forever. And there's all these rules that we have. I have them. I have them with you guys. Like, they're unconscious. I've never told you, here's the Bill of Rights, sign the dotted line.
Yes, you did.
Oh,
it's
I
our
guess
season
I
one.
did.
Season
Okay.
one of
I have.
Anatomy of Friendship is
I
our
have.
Bill of Rights.
All right.
Much.
But I didn't know that before.
Yeah.
But there's all kinds of, there's all these rules about what we get. And so I want to say that there's some little snarky part of me that says, I'm glad she left. Because go.
Well, not to cut you off, but
No, go.
I feel like if she'd been taking up all that space, maybe you and I wouldn't have been able to connect the way we did. And that would break my heart. And you brought Joey to me and have been so generous. I sent a message to Kelly today that you guys are both so generous with yourselves. Like, you don't mind if Kelly goes on a trip with me. There's no jealousy there or weirdness there. And you don't mind if Joey and I talk for hours about our kids. You don't care. Like, I have the chills right now because that is just the antithesis of this relationship that I'm talking about, where there's an inherent belief that somehow I'm going to be evil or do something wrong. You guys know me for who I am.
You.
And you trust me. And that means the world to me.
Ooh.
This reminds me of your cafe story.
Yes. You can't plug in here.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you want to do a little?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know that story. Yes.
Well, let me say something, because Kelly doesn't like to market herself. So I'm just going to say, in her book, A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste. That book right there. She has a story called You Can't Plug In Here. And so I know the story, and I know you know the story, but can you just give us a little synopsis, please? Because I think it's such, I use it every day in my head.
Nutshell.
Pronoia.
Pronoia.
That's a pronoia.
Pronoia. This is our new working. It means something like, instead of being paranoid that people are out to get you, pronoia is when you're like, for sure that everybody is conspiring to make your life better.
Even if they don't know.
Even if they don't know it. Like, and we just know that everything that happens is like going to make us better, going to make everything better. So like,
right,
but I didn't know this then. So I was on a book deadline for my very first book that I had a book deal with way back when, so 20 years ago. And I was very kind of overwhelmed by my book deadline. And And I found that in order to get my book done, I had to not work at home. I had to be at a cafe in order to get my daily word count in order to know that I was going to meet my deadline. So I had been working at this particular kind of commercial coffee house every day and kind of eating my scone, drinking my coffee, doing my thing. And I was so like chugging right along. And one day the manager came up to me and said, you can't plug your computer in here, your laptop. And I'm like, very funny. Move. Get away, kid. You bother me. He's like, I'm serious. You can't plug in here. I said, I have this geriatric old laptop. If I unplug it, everything dies. So I have to plug in here. He said, well, you're not allowed to plug in here. You're going to have to move on. I'm like, am I on Candid Camera?
And you buy coffee and you
I'm like, wait, I have
there every
see my
day.
lipstick on the coffee. Like I buy stuff. I'm not just sitting here. And I look around, I see all these other people in there working. I'm like, I feel like I'm they're not plugged in, but I'm like, I feel like I'm in the twilight zone. This is not real what's happening right here. And he was completely serious as a heart attack. And I found myself getting furious, but I tried to hold it in a very clenchy way. And I packed up my stuff. Oh, I said, can I speak to your manager? I am the manager. I'm like,
Pack some good faces.
I packed up all my stuff and I tried to slam the door behind me, but it was one of those doors that wouldn't quite slam. So didn't have the satisfaction of that. But I was like, I will never, ever. I mean, in my body, I didn't say this, but I was like, you will never see me ever again. You've lost a customer, sweetheart.
Don't you know
I'm upsetting Pearl. What?
Don't you know who I am?
Don't you know who I'm about to become? So I drive home in this like really upset and pissed off and hurt. And this little thought bubble appears above my head. Carolyn Mace saying, when it's strange, it's the hand of God. I'm like, well, this is strange. It must be the hand of God, but it still doesn't make any sense. I get home, pull up in front of my house. I think, I'm going to get my mail. Might as well. Pulling out all the mail. And I notice all these brightly colored postcards. I'm making very long story.
It's fine. It's good.
Okay. So there's like 5 of the same, like duplicates of the same postcard. And it was beautiful. And it's advertising a brand new coffee house right around the corner. And it says, present this postcard and get your first coffee and scone on us. I'm like, and there's 5 of them. So I'm like, ooh, I can get 5 of them. But at least
one day
one
I
of
wear a wig, and the next day I have a hat. Another day I have
Red
a
hat,
a mustache.
That's cute.
So I don't even go into the house. I just put the mail in my car and I'm like, I'm just going to go and check this place out right around the corner, actually closer to me than the other place was. I pull up in front. There's this parking spot right in front. These 2 very handsome Greek god kind of men, one dark haired, one blonde, and they had kind of their arms like as if they were waiting for me. It feels like the soundtrack of Chariots of Fire. Da, 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 da. Nancy, can you sing it? Exactly. Like slow motion as I'm coming toward them. And they walk and they literally said, like, come right in. And they walk me right in and they were like, oh, we're going to make you the best drink. You're going to love this. And the best scone. And look, and they kind of walk me over. And we just had our feng shui person here. This is our grand opening. And she says, this is the vortex in the whole place. This is where you will sit. And here you can plug in right here. There's a plug right next to the table. I'm like, what?
This guy's right?
Yeah. So I proceeded to go to this cafe every day until my book was finished. These guys they were so kind, so loving. They hosted my book event. I got to do dream theater workshops there. They were so loving and so kind. And my thought is, had that other place not told me to unplug, then I would have never plugged in to this other place. I never would have seen it. It was not on my radar. And it was so far superior to that other experience that I was attached to, as if that was the only show in town. And I did get my book in. I did get it in on time and with so much love and joy and sweetness. So You can't plug in. So I think that's something to
That's
consider.
what Joey said. That's why Joey said this, because that's
Right.
literally what I said with this
Exactly.
person out. Then I could have you guys in, and that's
Exactly.
sorry, better.
This might sound like a little airy-fairy, but this was something that I was literally just kind of meditating on yesterday. And I was envisioning all of us humans on this planet with this like little invisible umbilical cord that leads straight up to God. And it's like we're little puppets on a string. And God, good orderly direction, whatever. It doesn't have to be the man in the sky with the beard. I mean, whatever, but just
That's not Nancy's God anyway.
but imagining that there's this like this tether to where we are on earth, and it's guiding us to where we are meant to be. And sometimes we want to, our little will is saying, but I want to go left. But it's like the little puppeteer in the sky is saying, to the left, to the left, to the left, in a box in the left.
Put that in your ear. I have to go to the bathroom.
Oh,
I have
okay.
to pee.
All right. So I'll just keep on going. What am I just hearing? Okay. Well, something just went.
Are you hearing a song?
Joe, come back here. Something strange is going on in this.
Can you take off her ear and just listen out of your own ear?
I will. I'm just going to keep
going.
Then. Okay. Ooh, can't do that. Okay. So this kind of metaphysical thing is the what if there is nothing wrong when people invite us in, when people invite us to leave, invite us to not plug in here,
Invite us out. Yeah.
invite us out. Like,
Yeah.
what if we were so attuned to trusting thy will be done that we just were like these little dancers that were just being danced by the universe, and there wasn't a resistance to it. And I know our ego, I mean, my ego was pissed off. I took it personally when that little guy told me to leave, and it hurt my feelings. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. I just am always wanting to remember this. So I'm just so glad that this happened, and that we can never do that again.
Uh-oh. What happened?
We're learning.
Uh-oh. Oh.
So we're going to have to take these out for a moment. Nancy T, we're just having a little glit. Take it all the way up.
Okay. Okay, now you guys are like moving in, and I can't hear you. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, nod your head.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, but you're not synced up with your voice. You guys are a little. Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto.
How about
Take
now?
You're. I hear how about now, and then your lips go. It's like that distant. Okay. I'm in the show. Everyone can see and hear me. Oh, bloody. Am I robotic? No? I could. Do you want me to vamp till you figure it out? Because I did have something to reply to what you just said.
Because we can hear you. Talk.
Talk? Okay. So to reply to what you just said, when you're talking about how cool would it be if we could just consider that just someone coming in, someone leaving, all God's design. And that is what I've been doing. If you know that in my 2.0 era, what I've been doing is kind of showing people the door, because I've created this new social contract with them that they did not agree to begin with. So now here's Nancy with boundaries. Here's Nancy with standards. And so I've told these people, and I've said it all with love, but this is where I am. And a few of them have just gone. And I feel nothing like I felt with her, because that was the 1.0 being wounded. And the 2.0 is like, then that's what this is meant to be. This is exactly how it's meant to be. Because I specifically told this story and even took ownership and said, maybe said all sorts of things about things I did that wasn't working, and then said, so this is what I would like to do now. And the one friend literally said, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I can't believe all that you're telling me. I have to go into rehearsal. Let me call you back. And never called again. And but the 2.0 me says, bye.
Right.
God bless you. I hope you're okay. But I don't have to work that shift anymore. There's no more of that relationship. And it's okay. And I have a lot of those. I mean,
Doesn't feel
quite a
okay.
few examples that go with what you were saying.
Yes, this is okay. So this is the specificness of this conversation that's different than other ones we've had about ghosting, because this is kind of what happened, because you have gone from the 1.0 to the 2.0, and I would dare say we're all on the journey from our own 1.0 version to our 1.2 or 2.0. But most of the time it's not one fell swoop. It's not one, it's like usually a little bit more incremental, like that phrase, that term satori, which means like instant enlightenment. Most of the time, 99.9% of the time, it's very, very gradual. And we all want to get to enlightenment, I think. Most people want to just get to the mountaintop as quickly as we possibly can, but that means there's going to be a disconnect between a bunch of people. And you're absolutely right, a change of agreement. So
just so that you know, you guys are both frozen, but your voice is coming through as clear as a bell. So it's up to you as to
what
what
you
you
might keep
want
going.
Okay.
StreamYard is going to fix it all, so we'll be fine. We'll keep.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, so I want to say that, and our whole first season was about our friendship rules, and I believe our friendship rules relate to the 2.0, which means like if you're starting at 2.0, making friends, let's just say that there's an agreement that if we do have an uncomfortable moment, if you step on my toes and it hurts, if you are somebody who's in my inner ring of Saturn, and we've already explained inner rings of Saturn ad nauseum ad infinitum in other episodes, so I'm not going to repeat that. But if you're in an inner ring of Saturn, you deserve a conversation. And it doesn't mean that we're going to be able to resolve it in that conversation, but you've earned the right to an uncomfortable conversation where I say, ouch, it's really scary to say ouch. It's so hard to admit that I am vulnerable and that you hurt my feelings when you said X, Y, and Z. I want to give you the benefit of the doubt and know that your heart would never deliberately hurt me. So I don't think it was deliberate. I think it was an accident. But I want you to know that it did hurt. And is there anything else you have to say that you might say now in retrospect that maybe we can heal this? I'd like to heal it. And I'd like to also stand for the possibility that we get to go deeper as a result of this boo-boo. I don't know that we can, but I sure am open for that, if that's possible. How do you feel about that?
I feel like I love that, and what it actually brought up. It's going to sound like I'm dysfunctional Susie over here, but I I actually had a thing with my family recently, and one of my sisters, I literally said, there was a whole thing about a wedding, and she said, she was going to go with someone else, and sort of blew me off, and I said, I feel dumped. I feel dumped. And I didn't say it in a mean way, but it was just, suddenly you're doing this. And the feedback she gave to me was she thought I was going to create a bunch of drama. Well, you both know me, and that's not really my bag. So I decided to unplug from a lot of my sisters in a way that feels really good. And the conversation I feel dumped when it didn't come back. When she couldn't offer me I'm sorry, I did turn on a dime, if she wasn't going to say that, whatever she said wasn't going to be really what I needed. And I don't have a feeling. There's no feeling in my heart. You ask me how healed I am from that. Whew, all the way. Got no feeling.
I'll have what she's having. I'll have what you're having. Oh my God. This is Can I make this about me for a minute?
Yes, please.
I feel so teary right now.
Why?
Practically raised my nephew,
Yeah.
and I've sat with him through every dysfunctional choice he's ever made. And not that long ago, he made a lot of choices that were really hurtful to me and to 4 other people. So 5 in total, including himself. And I was just like, I can't stand by without saying something about this. And he wouldn't own any of it. None of it. And then he told me I was selfish for pulling away. And I was like, wow, really? Oh, you've never done this to me before. Other people do this, but you haven't done this. This is really conditional of you. And I'm like, well, Kelly's like, I don't owe anybody a lifetime of I unconditionally love, but I have conditions on behaviors. And so I have been like grieving so deeply
Oh.
because I decided to have a boundary and just go, wow, you can't do that to me without saying something. And not only will he refuse to acknowledge it, and I gave him all these different chances. I was like, I'm not going to talk to you until you get this kind of help. Like, I can't, I'm in so much pain. I don't have the bandwidth to hold this. I can't hold this like I used to hold stuff. I'm ground to the mill. I can't take anymore. And I can't tell you how many times he said to me, like, oh, you should let that person go. You should let that person go. You can't take any more stuff, Auntie. But then when I try to like have some space or just get some acknowledgement, he can't provide it. And he's telling me I'm selfish in the name of self-preservation. In the past, if someone called me selfish, I would have buckled. I would have tried to do more, be more, and not be selfish because that word was something I didn't feel like I could be. And I was like, okay, well, if you're going to call me selfish, okay, maybe it is. If this is selfish, okay. But I'm taking a huge risk to not have him in my life. And I'm afraid I'll never talk to him again, or I'll die before I get to, or he'll die before I'll get to. And I am just chewing on this, like, I'm in California right now. He lives in California. And I'm like, so you said something. You said something about if someone's close to you, give them an opportunity to say something, like to actually have a conversation. So I didn't have a face-to-face conversation. I wrote him a letter and then I did a voice memo and I said, I am too sensitive to have a back and forth conversation with you. I'm too sensitive. If you are willing to communicate back to me this way so I can control the narrative, I have to control the narrative. I am super hurt.
It's not even controlling the narrative, it's controlling the method.
Controlling the method. Okay, I'm controlling the method. And so while I'm trying to control the method, I'm trying to protect myself. I am afraid to have a dialogue with you because I don't trust that we're in a place where I'm going to get the care and the respect that I need. And so this is the only way I feel like I could do it. And he's like, I'm not even going to listen to your message. It's the principle. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, now you have principles? Like what happened before with those principles? So now your principle is you're not going to listen to my message and you're not going to respond and you're going to stand on ceremony that has to be in person. He's like, I'm reaching out to you and you just won't. So you are deciding not to be in a relationship with me. I'm like, no, you are deciding it because you don't get everything that you want. I don't get to be hurt, and then have a few rules about my protection and have you tell me I'm selfish. So no, you are deciding not to communicate with me based on your principles. So now we're kind of like, I don't want to be the self-righteous auntie, but I feel like this is why we don't have boundaries. I wanted to write a book called Don't Make Me Say No, because those of us that have boundaries get attacked by people who are unwilling to be responsible for themselves and they're too afraid to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, or whatever. So anyway, this whole conversation just brought up an enormous amount of grief. And I thought I was going to call him, and now I don't know. And I'm totally confused. And now I need your opinions. This is not Dear Abby. Okay, this is Dear Abby's.
So, on you, Dear Nancy T.
Yeah. So Nancy, Nancy T 2.0.
We're gonna have our tea and listen to Nancy.
Can you is anything coming up for you to say? Because I know you know my life, my heart, my struggles, and I know you want to protect me, but like go deep. Don't pull any punches. Like I know you'll have compassion for me, but also go in. If you feel like you need to say something hard, I'm here.
Okay. Okay. So my feedback, and thank you for asking. I'm honored that you want to hear anything. My feedback is I've had this moment that you're having. I've had it with my daughter. And her thing with me was always, it doesn't matter what I do. You're my mom. You are meant to take care of whatever I give you. Whatever. And she has stood by that. So anytime that she can look back where I set a boundary, to her, I was a bad mom. And I finally had to say, wait a minute. What would I say to a friend, somebody I love dearly? What would I say to them? I would say, you're a beautiful mom. You're a beautiful aunt. I know how much you've held for him. I know how much you've been there for him. And when it gets to the point where it feels dangerous to you on your insides, and it doesn't mean that he's coming after you with a knife, but it feels like it's not going anywhere good. It's trigger city, and it won't be pretty, not to run, but
Nice
when
job.
when it's that you doing this, he'll never see it as such, but it is a favor to him. It is a beautiful thing for you to do for them. Okay, I want to tell a story. I'm going to make it really brief. I don't want to out anybody, but there was an instance where I was helping someone and they had a procedure done. I supported them. They then went, did the same thing, tried to get another procedure done, and I said, I'm done. I can't be there for you for that because you continually put yourself in a dangerous position, therefore having to continually do something that I don't agree with. And that was held against me but I believe to this very day that had I not done that, the next time it happened, there would not be a beautiful blessings that came our way because I made that decision. I'm being so vague, but it's not that vague. And
No, it's not that vague. We don't need the details. It's good.
Right. So the point is sometimes when we make these decisions and it's gut wrenching. Oh God, I know the feeling. I feel it right now in my gut because you shared that with me. You feel like there's a teeny part of you that's incredible. Well, there's a big part of you that's incredulous that he said it, but then there's this part of you that might believe it. And I'm here to say no to that little teeny part that believes it. No, you're right to do this. You are right to set a boundary because here's the thing. You've never done this. But now you're doing it. Shouldn't that speak volumes? And if it doesn't, then it's got to come to him. That's got to be between him and his God. It can't. I mean, honey, I hate to say it, but I feel like your work there is done. And that doesn't mean that it's over, but he has some growth to do before he can come back to you. And it's okay. It's okay. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that he hurt you like this. I'm so sorry because you don't deserve that. You don't deserve it. You deserve such a love, such an appreciation for all that you've done. And he doesn't have it in him because if he has to appreciate you, then that means he has to look at what he's done wrong. And he's just not ready to look at it and take ownership for anything. I've lived that with my daughter. No ownership. And I just said to her the other day, if you keep pointing fingers outward, you'll never get better. Never get better. And I thought that sounds so bitchy, but guess what? That is
doesn't sound bitchy. It sounds true.
It's just true. So I don't know if that helps, but that's it.
It totally does. And Gigi said that to me today.
Gigi
The lady
lashes.
that did the eyelashes, Gigi Lashes.
Yay, Gigi, we love you.
Yeah, she pretty much said the same thing. She even said later on some of those people thanked her. And actually, there was another time I said no to Hunter, and he thanked me later.
It's okay.
Oops, I didn't want to say names.
Delete.
Anyway,
We're gonna delete this whole. We're gonna edit this shit.
Well, he was
we are.
Episode.
Isn't that something he did? Maybe he was a hunter.
He once was a hunter. Yeah, he liked to hunt.
Mhm.
animals.
All right, I'm going to say this, Cherry, and then I'm going to want to hear what you have to say. If I didn't know the word pronoia and I didn't understand or believe that in the river of life, every rock and every bank and every tumble and every tree twig that we run into is still in the flow of good for me, if I didn't know that, I would stop here and I would wail. But I know that I'm getting a you can't plug in here moment, and I'm trusting while I'm grieving and while I'm scared and while I'm sitting in the unknown and while I'm afraid to say no and afraid for him and afraid for me. But I trust more than I'm afraid. And so this is why I haven't done more until now and why I'm still praying about it. And now I want to hear what you have to say. And thank you, Nancy. I needed to hear that. I really needed to hear that again today.
Oh, you're welcome. You know I love you.
I
And
do. And
he
I
loves
know you
you too.
Hey,
He loves you too. He just is
oh yeah.
really
No,
hurting.
he's shocked. He's shocked and he's hurting.
Mhm.
So I just want to say I feel like this is going to be very boring compared to what just happened, but I feel like I'm just pointing things out. Um, there's the 1.0 version of ourselves versus the 2.0. The 1.0 world is an entirely different world than the 2.0. In the 1.0 of everybody, it's you owe me. And it's very tribal. It's very like, you're my mom, you're my sister, you're my auntie, you owe me. As long as like there's all this should that governs the world. And there's all this bending over backwards, being a contortionist.
Which was my dream the other day. There was contortionists.
And
I was like, oh my God, they're gonna break.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hello.
Wow.
So in the 1.0, that's just life. And because we come from 1.0, I think everybody probably does. I think there's few people that skip 1.0 and they go straight to the 2.0. But I think we relate to these issues. We made agreements with people on the 1.0 level, and we've done so much work on ourselves, not because we're better people, but I mean, the work I've done on myself has just simply been selfish because I've been in pain and I don't like pain. And so the work I've done has helped to get me out of pain. And that's brought me into what I might dare say is a 2.0 way of doing things. And so I get accused of betrayal as well because I don't suit up and show up out of shoulds anymore. I do it. It's like I sort of trust. I don't sort of trust. I do trust that guiding principle that moves me or doesn't. So 1.0 can yell at 2.0 all day long. They miss each other. They're just not in cahoots. And I think it's just like that movie As Good as It Gets with Ellen, what's her face, and somebody remind me of what's her name? Jack Nicholson and Ellen Barkin.
And Kinnear, whatever.
Yes.
Greg Kinnear.
Yes. So Ellen Barkin does, like, she has standards, and Jack Nicholson says, you make me want to be a better man. I want to be with you because I'm willing to be a better man. And she's like, oh, well, I guess we can rock then. She had turned him down. Nope. But he kind of rose up. And so, okay, play ball. But
they said, these are the new standards. These are the standards you need to meet. That's what she did. Yeah. But it was when you said that, you said, you're my mom, you're my aunt, you're my sister, you're my, those are them defining the roles that we are playing. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And I get it that when I go on on stage, someone else defines that role, but it's up to me to interpret it all. It's up to me to, so someone else is telling you how to be you. How crazy is that? And we sign up going, yeah, you're right. I should.
There was a friend of mine.
Well said.
There was a friend of mine who has a mother that, in the way that she described her, was pretty friggin' dysfunctional, pretty awful. Like not a mommy dearest level, but pretty close. And one day in therapy, this friend of mine had been in therapy for a very long time, kind of getting over what a horrible mother she had. And her therapist one day kind of bitch slapped her and said, she kept you alive until past the age of like 18.
I was going to say 5. If you live past the age of 5, you're lucky.
But no. But she was obligated to feed you, clothe you, put a roof over your head until you were 5. That's her obligation according to law. And she did it. Everything else is whipped cream, icing, sprinkles. She didn't owe you one day past that. She didn't owe you one more thing. Did she do anything else? Well, yeah, she did buy me clothes until I was 21. And yeah, I did. All that was extra. She didn't owe you more than that. She didn't owe you to be your best friend. She didn't owe you to intuit your every feeling, thought, need, desire. She didn't owe you all of these things that you created a role that was actually God with like hair and boobs. Like you created that, and you're pissed off because your mother fell short of that. That's you. That's on you. Your mom did her job. She did it. She did it successfully because here you are alive. Oh my God. Your mom rocked it. She gets a star on the forehead, as my grandpa would say.
Oh, I just want you to know I reheard you right now for my whole life and everybody in it.
Oh,
thank you. That was medicine.
yay.
And for all the time we spent in therapy, my mom did this and my mom did that, and I didn't like her tone, and I didn't did and I didn't hear, and she wasn't honest, and me.
Right. All of that is the extra.
Yeah.
Because we're wanting her to be the 2.0 be all end all.
Right.
When who made that shit up?
Right. We're not owed that.
No.
And then consequently, as mothers, we don't owe that.
No. Exactly.
I like this in both directions.
This has been like so damn juicy and hard. And this is a work in progress. This is not easy. But what did we come here to do? Did we come here to just kind of play in the 1.0 forevermore? I think once you've had a taste of the 2.0,
that's all there is.
It's hard to go back, but we can do what Ellen
Barkin
did and just stand in the 2.0.
Yeah.
Helen Hunt.
Oh, Helen Hunt.
Helen, the hunter. That's it. Okay. Helen Hunt stood in the 2.0 and she was willing to let go of the 1.0. That wasn't her job. And he said, you make me want to be a better man. I'm going to try. I see you. You're juicy. I want that. And we have to bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray our own soul. Thank you, Orion Mountain Dreamer. On that note, thank you for having tea with us, Nancy T.
Thanks for
And thanks for letting us borrow the 2.0 for ourselves as well, because you're the Nancy 2.0 and I want to be the Joey 2.0.
I want to be Kelly 2.0.
So is it okay if we borrow that as well, knowing that it started with you?
Absolutely. Okay. I love you too so much.
I love you.
And everyone check out Nancy T's website, nancytelsero.com, for healing work. She does body code, emotion code, Reiki, and just an overall spiritual sessions that are deep and soulful and profound. And hire her for acting gigs too, because she is a friggin' chameleon. Oh my God, she's so good.
But let's spell her name. Well, just do the Nancy because people spell things differently.
And then
NANCYTELZEROW.com.
All right. Oh my God.
Thank you.
Love you, Nancy. Any last words from you as we
I just love you too. I think that why not end it with love? I got you two as friends. I don't need anything else.
Aww, we love you. Thank you so much.
Bye,
Nat. See you later.
Bye.
Thanks for being our friend.
Thank you for joining us on Anatomy of Friendship.
If this has been helpful to you, or if you have questions or comments,
please share them with us at anatomyoffriendship.com.
If you haven't yet, take a moment to follow, like, and subscribe to our show.
And don't forget to share it with a friend or two or a few.
Special shout out to Dana Walden at Love Hub Productions for being our engineer, producer, and for writing our friendship song.
And Karina Grandma for being the voice of our song. Take it away, Karina.